So what's good, my boy?
What's up, man? It's Benz 47 Films, the end is near. I'm about to get this interview in. Y'all make sure to tune in. Y'all gonna see it here first.
I'm asking for some Wi-Fi action so I can provide captions in an overhyped fashion. I know this life flashed before my eyes laughing, rationing what's left of my passion. I wrote at night saddened cause the motives I imagined were a fraction of the hope I thought was everlasting. Stowed a dose of my compassion inside quotes in a note beside my mattress, the closest passage to my casket. It took a tap.
Bro, I seen you did some project with Young Preach.
Yeah.
It's crazy because I known him since like middle school. He forgot who I was because I mean I ain't have dreads back then, but yeah. How was that?
I've been working with Preach probably since I started, so it's been 2.5 to 3 years I've known Preach. I had shot his first video when he got out of jail, and that was honestly one of my first ever music videos. So me and him probably worked on 3 to 4 different projects. He's on my behind the tapes for Jacksonville, Florida Artists, which is my interview collection. Preach is just he's more of a homie to me than he is an artist. So I usually pull up to all his like studio sessions. I pull up to, just to hang out and shit like that. So we've walked in a lot of videos, and it's really organic when we do work because it's not like a client film dude basis. It's more of a we're friends, we can get this shit going. So I mean, the more me and him have both evolved over the years in terms of his sound and his work ethic, in terms of the way I work and my quality and shit like that. Like when I first started, I didn't have a team. I was just by myself. My equipment wasn't the same as it is now. Like I got a dude behind the scenes. I got my girl that does makeup. I got a couple of different lighting technicians, so it's all about growth and continuing your craft even when you don't feel like doing it or you feel like it's not working. It's low-key working, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, tell us about like one of your like craziest video shoots, or like your worst nightmare of a video shoot. Like maybe nothing was going right, all the batteries were dead, or the artist was late. Whoa, what was that like?
I'm not gonna name names, but so we had a shoot. It was supposed to be at 7 o'clock. We had waited all day, and then when the artist had arrived, he had to go get friends, and that took another 45 minutes to an hour. And then things just kept getting backtrack. And then when it came to shooting, like the whole concept we had, it really like fell through. So pretty much all the work had fell onto me on organizing how the video should look and this and that. I've been very lucky not to have anything crazy happen. Most of the people I worked with, they kind of respect me, if that makes sense, in terms of payment. In terms of, like we need to get this done. I've never had any issues with that. So I think the biggest thing with that and avoiding that is to get whoever your client is, to get them to respect you as a person more than just some dude with a camera. So the minute they respect what you do and how you move, that will reflect on your shoots. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's really good advice. What's like that's probably one of the top 3, but what's like a big number 1 of like what you would tell somebody like starting off in the videography or photography?
Number 1 is find people that actually want to work with you. I did a lot of free work first starting out. Make sure that you're bringing something that other people ain't doing. Don't compare yourself to what other people are doing, because the minute you start doing that, it starts to become a competition in your own head. Make sure your branding and what you go by stands out. So for me, it was 47 Films, the number 47. It means a lot to me. It's meant a lot to me since I was 14. And then the end is near is a slogan that I was detailing in every single video I did. So any advice I would give is your branding. Make sure your support system is good. Make sure you actually believe in yourself. There's going to be a lot of times where you don't feel creative. There's going to be a lot of times where you doubt yourself. There's going to be a lot of times where you don't feel like you're doing enough and putting enough in. But in reality, like every step you take, as long as you're taking steps and making progress, then you're doing the right things. Make sure you're networking with people. Make sure just because someone has beef with someone, don't cut that tie. Because just because them two artists or whoever it is has issues, don't fuck your money up. You know what I mean? You gotta stay out of politics, is what I call it. At the end of the day, just staying out of drama and just being able to work with everybody. Make sure, and that another thing is making sure you have a really good face card in the city. Because you fuck up one time, they gonna be on your ass. You miss a deadline, you do a video and you don't follow up with them, you don't stay communicating, that's gonna trash anything that you got going on in the present, but also the future. Try to learn new things. Don't think you gotta, just because you come out with a really good video one time, you gotta keep wanting to progress that. You know what I mean? You gotta keep wanting to move forward, keep getting better. So I mean, honestly, like I said, that's really my advice to upcoming film and anybody in between, just creatives in general. You know what I mean? Just try to keep moving forward, and you know, don't get lost in your head too much, stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of that sounds like you just touching a home base. Like, tell us about like your upbringing and like your challenges that you face, being so successful. You know, like everybody hits that rough spot. Like, talk about, you know, that.
So when I was growing up, my mom had me at 18. My dad, he was in and out of my life a lot. So my mom, she had dropped me off at my grandparents'. That's where I stayed for the majority of my life, was with my grandparents. My dad had adopted me, which I didn't know, and shit like that. But a lot of, like, in terms of upbringing, I mean, I had a pretty good childhood. Like, there was nothing, like, in terms of family aspect, I didn't really have that growing up, so I was the only child and shit like that. But other than that, my grandparents, rest in peace to my nana that passed away this year, they did everything they could. Anytime I needed something, to make sure it was done. My family is just now wanting to be a family and stuff like that. But my childhood, it was good. I mean, I was the nerdy fat kid in school and shit like that. I was really into skateboarding and streetwear, but I was also into video games and all that other shit. So I mean, it was pretty normal. I mean, I can't complain. I had my issues that probably linger with me to this day, but I feel like everybody's got their own mental issues and, you know, things that really bother them. But the best thing about that is just not to let it get to you. I mean, whoever you were as a kid and whoever you were as a child, you know, it's not you now. You know, anybody's capable of, you know, crafting a new future and a new present. Like, I could let my little daddy issues bother me to this day, but I don't dwell on it too much. I mean, I got people that love me, and I mean, that's plenty. Like, that's all I need. You know what I mean? So. Yeah,
my condolences to your family.
I appreciate that.
Especially your grandma.
Thank you.
I know that's hard. But what really like drives you to, you know, get where you are and, you know, keep it pushing, even though you come through rough patches or conflicts? What?
I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave something that nobody else has done, in terms of my clothing line, in terms of my videos. I really want to put Jacksonville on the map. I really want to bring the artists that I've worked with and have trusted me and supported me. I really want to bring them with me. Ever since I've started, my biggest problem was trying to be friends with everybody I met, and that's just because I'm so loving and so caring to all the people I meet. So, I mean, the biggest thing that drives me is just leaving a legacy, doing right by people, helping the community out, trying to achieve something that most people wouldn't dream of doing. That's what really I've never seen myself at a 9-to-5. I've never seen myself just working at a job where I'm just staring at the clock every day and just not wanting to fulfill more, because I believe in myself. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't have. I'm not trying to move on an ego tip. I get why people work. I get why people have jobs. But being a creative person, I've been like this since I was a kid. This is the only thing I see. I don't see any other option for me. So just leaving that legacy, man, and just when I die, I'll be able to give something to my kids, and them kids will be able to give something to their kids, and just making an impact in the community. That's my biggest thing.
That's what's up. Speaking of biggest thing, what's your biggest accomplishment so far?
My biggest accomplishment is just, honestly, every day is an accomplishment to me. Anytime I work with a new artist or anytime I come out with a new collection of clothes, that's an accomplishment to me. I try not to overstep because I don't want to think too much in the future. I feel like I've always been the type of person, as you set these hard to reach goals, it's hard to really appreciate where you are now. So I really try to appreciate the present moment I'm in. Like just having like one of my best friends, Hunter Ganger, just having him as my behind the scenes guy and seeing how much he's changed in a year, that's an accomplishment to me. Having a beautiful relationship, that's an accomplishment to me. Having a whole media team, that's an accomplishment. Having people tattoo my logos and my brands, that's an accomplishment. I just feel like some people get so lost in trying to, like, let's say they want 100,000 followers, they want 100,000 views. It's kind of hard to appreciate where you are. So I try to take every little step I do take as being the accomplishment. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Now, did you grow up in Jacksonville? I know you talked about your upbringing, like, but are you from here or?
I grew up in Arlington, Jacksonville, Florida, for most of my youth years, and then I had moved to the South Side, and I stayed there for a long time with my grandparents after my mom dropped me off one day, and after that I had moved to Clay County. After I graduated, I came back to Jacksonville, so I've been in Jacksonville my entire life. So I mean, I ain't been nowhere else too much.
Could you put a number on how many people you work with? In the past year, we're not gonna do the whole lifespan.
I've probably worked with 20 to 25 different people this year, and that's just like a rough number. I mean, it's a rough estimate. I mean, I would really have to like sit down and go through names, but any event I do or I would say the biggest thing is networking at events. That's how I really meet new people. I mean, you got to get out there. You can't just be behind your computer all day trying to meet with new artists. But that's the biggest thing.
Right, let's talk a little more about, you know, the man behind the camera. What camera do you have, and how did you start off?
So I started off on a Sony T6 Rebel, it was a 1080 HD. That really got me far in terms of what I did, but my biggest upgrade, and I didn't have tube lights, the Nanolite tube lights, but I started on a Rebel T6, and I had just a small box, little light, and then after that, you know, I finally got a Sony A7 third generation, which shoots in 4K, 29 frames, and then I got the tube lights, and that's really, it's made a bunch of a difference in terms of just filming and then post-production in itself, because the quality, that and I edit on Final Cut Pro. When I had the Canon T6, I was on a free editing platform, and now I'm on a Sony A7 with the tube lights and Final Cut Pro. So that's helped me in terms of pricing, in terms of production value, and just all that. So I mean, I shoot in 4K now. The next thing is to shoot on a cinema camera and maybe move into more advanced editing software, but you know, just take a step at a time, mastering with the equipment I do have before I move on to something else.
Not to make your competition get ahead of you, but what's your next big purchase as far as equipment?
Probably a cinema camera again, like a Pocket Magic, you know, 6K. I don't like the big bulky cinema cameras. The way I shoot is I like to do a lot of freehand. I feel like you can do a lot of things where most people are trying to do in post-production in terms of editing. So like, you know, swing transitions, I can do that in camera. You know what I mean? I can swing my camera. I add movements in my camera. I mean, a lot of things that people are trying to buy in terms of effects, you can already do in your camera once you master your camera. So I mean, just working with what you got, mastering with what you got, and you can learn a lot about how you film just learning your equipment. So.
Okay, cool. A little pop quiz.
Okay.
Which one is better in your eyes? You know, because it's opinion based.
Okay.
Color or texture?
I say color. That's my opinion. If your exposure and when you say texture, you mean like LUTs?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I say if you have your colors down and exposure and you have all that down, you won't really need a LUT. In my opinion, like a LUT is more, has to do in changing the way colors look and the way exposure and all that works. But that's just personal preference. I'm a big color guy. I like messing around with colors all the time. But as long as your color and exposure looks good, I mean, you gotta have master the shadows, your midtones and all that, and you don't really need LUTs. I mean, LUTs are a nice feature, but if you get your coloring down and the shadows, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you have it already. So.
Another question: videography or for photography?
Videography, 100%. Videography, you can. It's moving pictures. I mean, the beautiful thing about film is you're having music, you're having visual, you're having all different types of art. Is just in one. So that's the thing I love about film the most. Photography in general, I have a lot of respect for it. I understand you have to have a lot of patience with it and stuff like that, but just film, it just really satisfies all those little boxes in terms of art and stuff like that.
Light setting or dark settings for videography?
I like shooting in the dark more. In terms of that, because I like to focus heavy on my like colors and shit like that. I like to bring a lot of color into my shoots. Like if it's reds, greens, pinks, purples, strobes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with daytime shoots. It's just I feel like it's kind of done a lot just because people don't have access to the lighting techniques nor the lighting equipment to really take advantage of what nighttime offers.
Another question: less than 5 sets or more than 5 sets? And this is really for the artist, really.
You talking about takes?
Yes.
It depends on the artist. I mean, sometimes if you're more of an experienced person that films, you'll know. But I say it's always better to overshoot than undershoot. You know what I mean? So you can think you have the most fire shot, but let's say you get home, you're like, well, damn, I only got 2 to 3 takes of this, so I gotta pick the best one. So I would say try to get as many shots as you can. I mean, there's nothing wrong with overshooting, just so you can have a bunch to play with. You know what I mean? There's no point in undershooting at all. You gotta get to a point where the artist needs to trust in what you do. They need to trust what your job is, and same way you trust in what their job is. I mean, you don't go into a studio session telling an artist how he needs to spit his verse, how he needs to write his verse, how his flow should sound. Same way with the way they should trust in your direction and whatever your techniques are.
And last question: what do you enjoy most about photography or videography?
I like expressing myself. I like to do something that someone sees and it makes them feel something. And just being able to express yourself and having an outlet. So like, let's say if I'm having a sad day, I can really put that into my film work, and just being able to have something physical that people can see and actually appreciate. And making a film in general, it takes time. You gotta plan everything out, and then you gotta execute the plan, and then you gotta edit the plan, and just when everything comes together, it's like an orchestra of instruments that all flow, and that everything just sounds beautiful, and you have the most beautiful product at the end. Really something that somebody can appreciate, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, just being able to express myself, being able to just do something that a normal person couldn't do. You know what I mean?
Alright, give us them shout outs. I know you've been holding them back. Give us those shout outs.
I wanted to say shout out to my team. Shout out to 47 Films and His Nears. Shout out to Ashton Chase. Shout out to Young Preach. Shout out Taylor Ronan. Shout out to Roach. Shout out to Black Toilet. Well, shout out to Computer Food. I'm trying to think of some people I worked with. Shit. Yeah, shout out to Benny Banks, man. Shit, there's a lot of people. Wish I had. Hold on, let me get my list. So I don't want to leave people out because people get salty. Let me get my list down. I don't want to leave nobody out. Shout out to Quan Banks. Shout out to Short Fuse. Shout out Smirk Lords for having us tonight. Shout out to Kimi Hendrix. Shout out to Big Kirby. Shout out to Stokely Carmichael. Shout out to Tim Griffin. Who else we got? Shout out to the boys at Final Lap. Shout out to Klein Barron Loco. Who else? Shout out to OG Young Marco. Shout out to Kelly Morris, beautiful musician in Asheville, North Carolina. Really good friend of mine. Shout out to Harper 23. Shout out to Walker Flocker. Shout out to Yellow Steve. Oh, shout out to Tony Park, Rick Herring, Duke 597, GDK The Blade. Shout out to Enrich. I mean, shout out to anybody. Shout out to Jacksonville. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Shout out to Jacksonville. Without y'all giving me a chance to do what I do, I wouldn't be here. So just shout out to the city. And if I don't know you, still shout out to you. I mean, if you're working, I fuck with you. You know what I mean? We'll leave it at that.
I'm asking for some Wi-Fi action.